Mastering Your Mind, the Key to Success. In a quiet town in Ohio, there lived a young man named Ethan. He was bright, ambitious, and full of potential. Ever since he was a child, he dreamed of becoming a doctor. But there was one major problem: his mind was undisciplined. The struggle with focus. Every time Ethan sat down to study, his phone, social media, and daydreams distracted him. He would tell himself, "I'll study later, I still have time." But later never came. His parents and teachers often told him, "Ethan, intelligence alone isn't enough. You need focus and discipline." But he never took their advice seriously. He believed that as long as he was smart, he would succeed eventually. One day, his high school announced the results of a scholarship exam, an opportunity that could help him get into his dream medical school. Ethan had high hopes, but when the results came out, he was devastated. He had failed. His friends, who had studied with dedication, earned top scores. His teachers, who once praised him, now looked at him with disappointment. Ethan felt ashamed, not because he wasn't smart, but because he knew he had wasted his time. That night, he sat alone in his room, reflecting on his failure. For the first time, he realized that intelligence alone wasn't enough. Without discipline, success was impossible. A lesson from a mentor. Determined to change, Ethan sought out a wise mentor, Mr. Harris, a retired Navy officer known for his mental strength and discipline. The next morning, Ethan visited Mr. Harris at his small farmhouse on the edge of town. He found him chopping wood, his face calm and focused. Ethan hesitated but finally said, "Sir, I struggle to control my mind. I want to be successful, but I keep getting distracted. Please teach me how to discipline my mind." Mr. Harris looked at him and smiled. "Ah, the restless mind. That's the greatest battle of all. Come, let me tell you a story." The archer's lesson. Years ago, Mr. Harris began, there was a young man named Jake who wanted to become the best archer in the country. He was strong and talented, but he had one problem: his mind was scattered. Some days he trained hard, but other days he wasted time. Desperate to improve, Jake sought out a legendary archery coach. The coach took him to a lake and gave him a bow and arrow. "Shoot at that floating leaf," the coach instructed. Jake aimed and released the arrow, but he missed. The coach asked, "What did you see when you aimed?" Jake replied, "I saw the lake, the trees, the sky, and the leaf." The coach shook his head. "That is your problem. You see too many things at once. A true archer sees only his target and nothing else." Determined to learn, Jake trained for months. He forced himself to focus only on the target, ignoring all distractions. One day, the coach asked him again, "What do you see?" Jake replied, "I see only the leaf." This time, when he released the arrow, it hit the target perfectly. Applying the lesson, Mr. Harris looked at Ethan and said, "Your mind is like Jake's, it is distracted by everything around you. If you want to succeed, you must train your mind to focus only on your goal." Ethan nodded, understanding the lesson. But he was still unsure how to apply it. "Sir, how do I train my mind?" Mr. Harris smiled and handed him a heavy log of wood. "Start splitting this wood. Every time your mind wanders, bring it back to the task at hand. This will teach you how to control your focus. And remember these 4 rules, the 4 rules of mental discipline. 1. Control your thoughts. Every time your mind wanders, bring it back to the task. Just like the archer, see only your goal. 2. Create a routine. A disciplined mind needs structure. Set a daily schedule and follow it strictly. 3. Remove distractions. Identify what steals your focus, be it your phone, TV, or unnecessary activities, and eliminate them while working. For be consistent. Discipline isn't built in a day. Just like an athlete trains his body daily, you must train your mind every day. Ethan's transformation. Ethan took Mr. Harris's advice seriously. He created a study schedule and followed it strictly. Whenever his mind wandered, he reminded himself of his goal. He stopped using social media while studying, put his phone on silent, and even deleted distracting apps. At first, it was hard. His mind craved distractions, but he didn't give up. Day by day, his focus improved. He could study for hours without losing concentration. Months later, when he sat for another major exam, he was prepared. This time, he didn't just pass, he scored in the top 1% of all students. Ethan's success wasn't because of luck or intelligence alone, it was because of his disciplined mind. A life-changing realization years later, as he stood on stage receiving an award for academic excellence, he remembered Mr. Harris's words, "The mind is like a wild horse. If you don't control it, it will take you wherever it wants. But if you train it, it will take you exactly where you want to go." From that day on, Ethan lived by one powerful principle: discipline your mind, and success will follow.